10 random Magic cards rated. Day number 95, everybody. We are less than a week out now from the big 100. It's crazy we got there so fast. Hey, what's the first card of the day, Dev? Let's not start the reminiscing already. This is Ugan's Construct from Ugan's Fate, and also Fate Reforged. This is 4 mana for a 4/5 artifact creature. It is a construct. And when it ETBs, sacrifice a permanent that is 1 or more colors for some reason. 4 mana, 4/5. Downside. I guess because any deck can play it. It's pretty terrible, though, unless you actively want to sack stuff. And even then, you'd probably find better outlets to do so. So let's just... I bet this was okay in draft, though. You know what I mean? This is from the first set, or at least Fate Reforged was. The first set that came out, you know, as we started the YouTube channel. So I have, like, some love for just Fate Reforged kind of as a set. You know what I mean? But I'm going to throw like a 2. No, I'm not. I'm going to throw a 3.3 at this because it's still a 4 mana 4/5. You know, Exotic Orchard. Have we covered this card yet? I somehow don't think so. This is in every Commander product ever printed for some reason. This is a land. You tap it and you add a mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce a Felwar Stone on a land, which is fine. I'm going to give this a 7, which is more than fine. I tend to score lands, but it's because lands are very important, and this is a very, very good one. So I'm going to stick with it, 7. Expansion Explosion up next. This is actually a really played card back in the standard it was involved in. Expansion, this is a split card. Expansion is blue-red hybrid for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell with mana value 4 or less. You may choose new targets for the copy. Explosion is X double blue, double red for an instant that deals X damage to any target, and target player draws X cards. Wow. That's a great spell in and of itself. That used to just end games of standard like pretty easily. Expansion, on the other hand, copies a whole lot of very important things, and sometimes you would see it copy stuff in standard, but mostly it was Explosion that won the games, right? But sometimes Expansion would copy a removal spell or draw spell or something like that, you know. But I miss this card. I really do. Guilds of Ravnica was a great set. I've seen a few people through my emails and in my comments section basically say that Guilds of Ravnica standard was their last, like the last good standard to them, you know. It seems to be a more common sentiment than you might think, but maybe not, because you might hold that same sentiment. Guilds was one of the last, like, I feel like that was the last, like, big season on the channel where everyone was, like, playing standard and watching the videos, and we were doing, like, deck techs every 2 days or whatever. Guilds was a great time. It really was. But, again, enough reminiscing. But this card does mean a little bit to me in terms of, like, the history of Magic, the history of the channel, and the history of Standard at large. So I'm going to give Expansion Explosion a 5.9 because I actually do think this is still, like, a relatively playable Commander card. I really do. You copy your opponent's removal spells or draw spells, too. That's a cool thing to be able to do. There's all kinds of neat instants and sorceries people play with mana value 4 or less. So Expansion's a fine card. But Explosion... Explosion is a neat way to end one player's game and fill your hand with cards. So I love this thing. Always will. But we'll move on to Mighty Leap. We have covered this card before. So let's move on to Vampire Aristocrat. This is a Nantuko Husk, but it's a vampire. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 2/2 vampire rogue. Sack a creature, and it gets +2/+2 till end of turn. So this is better than Nantuko Husk because it's got a relevant creature type, whereas Husk kind of doesn't. It's an insect, which I guess is relevant from time to time, but not as often as vampires are, man. So let's give Aristocrat. This has only been printed twice. That is really hard to believe. This is good. This is a good... Nantuko Husk is a 5 something, you know? So let's give this a 5.2. Good in your sacrifice decks, good in your vampire decks that want to sacrifice stuff, which is some number of them, you know? So any Aristocrats pile probably wants some version of this effect. If you're already running, you know, Woe Strider or a similar card, you want some redundancy. So yeah, it's a card I've played before. Move on to Kinsbale Balloonist, only ever printed in Lorwyn. 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 2/2 Kithkin Soldier with flying. When it attacks, you may have target creature gain flying till end of turn. It's one of those. One of these in like every set now. And I can't really score it very high. Do you want to pay 4 mana for a 2/2? 2.4. Somewhere in there. Yeah, 2.3 even. Staff of Domination, everybody, from Fifth Dawn originally. But I do like this retro frame here. This is 3 mana for an artifact. You can pay 1 and untap it, but that's just where we're getting started here, because you can also pay 2 mana, tap it, gain a life, 3 mana, tap it, untap target creature, 4 mana, tap it, tap target creature, or 5 mana, tap it, draw a card. All of the modes are a little bit too much, but this is still a card that sees a lot of play in Commander, and occasionally it does like something weird in other formats, but not very often, right? Let's be honest. It's mostly a Commander card. Not great. I never loved Staff, but I have seen it do broken things, and I've seen people report on it doing broken things, right? If you have all the mana in the world, which is, I think, mostly how people use the card, is literally as like a infinite mana sink, then you can draw most of your deck, you can gain a bunch of life, you can untap a guy that then does a thing, which I think is maybe the most popular use for it, is untap the guy taps for mana, which untaps Staff of Domination, and then Staff of Domination untaps the guy, he taps for mana, so infinite mana in that way. There's a lot of activated abilities you can get up to some nasty stuff with this thing. So, I don't really want to discount how good the card is. Let's give it, just out of respect, I'm going to give Staff a 6.6, but I'm also going to ask the audience on Staff of Domination. Remember that we're rating for casual Commander, which is kind of why such a high score on the card. I think it fills a very important role in some Commander decks, again, as this like ridiculous mana sink or a synergy piece for untapping your dudes. So I say 6.6, but I imagine the audience is going to be very, varied on this one. So let me know how you feel about Staff down there in the comments section. Really interested to know, because I think some people give it like a 4, but then other people might give it like an 8, depending on what, degenerate stuff they've done with it. It's just a very good card. Very versatile, obviously. Necromancer's Stockpile is up next from M15. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for an enchantment. Pay 1 and a black and discard a creature card to draw a card. The discarded card was a zombie card. Put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tap. This thing is sick. I don't remember this. I mean, obviously, I was around for Magic 2015. And I've heard the name of this card before, so I've definitely seen it with my eyes. But again, like I said the other day, I guess I never internalized what the card actually did, but I think that I'm going to put this on my buy list. Buy neck stock. That's going to lead to some wacky situations. But what does that mean, Dev? Buy neck stock? Buy stock in necks, Dev. Make an investment. This is I like this. I really do. Discarding a creature card is kind of a big deal, but obviously if you discard like a Bloodghast or some other zombie that can come back from your yard really easily, then no problem, right? You just got value off of doing that. 2 mana, draw a card, right? 2 mana, discard a creature, draw a card. You might want to discard a creature for reanimation. You might be discarding a smaller zombie than a 2/2, and you're going to get a 2/2 anyway. I like this. I like this a good bit, actually. And you just use Victimize or something to bring back zombies that you put into the yard, or Geralf's Messenger will come back anyway. This is sick. This is a good card. It's only 20 cents, dude. I'm going to score this too highly, because discarding a creature card and paying mana is actually kind of a high cost. I'm not going to, I'm not going to completely overrate the card. I can see the issues with it, but I still think that this is kind of gassy, dude. I'm going to give it a 5.2 because I really like the cut of its hair. I want to try it. I do. Take it for a spin. Molten Disasters up next from Future Sight. This is X and double red for a sorcery with kicker red. You pay an additional red as you cast this spell. If the kicker cost was paid, Molten Disaster has split second, so it cannot be responded to. Molten Disaster deals X damage to each creature without flying and each player. So, okay, it's Earthquake, but it costs more than Earthquake. But if it costs even more than Earthquake, it has split second. Neat. Split second is a very, very good ability that I wish they would bring back. In case you've never actually seen it, and my explanation was a little bit just not enough, I guess. As long as this spell is on the stack, players cannot play spells or activated abilities that are not mana abilities. So you throw it on the stack, literally nothing else can happen. So It just ends the stack. It can't be countered effectively. That's the most important thing, right? But they also can't like make their creatures larger so they can get above, in terms of toughness, get above the Molten Disaster. They can't do nothing. So really, really sick actually. I like this. I do. I'd rather play Earthquake 9 times out of 10, but I think that I would score Earthquake relatively high when I do see it, right? So I'm going to give Molten Disaster like a 6.1. I think this is a fine sweeper in red that can also just like blow players out too. And that's, you're always looking for that in Commander. So good card. Final card of the day, barring a potential bonus card, is Siege Veteran. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Oddly enough, I resolved this card a bunch of times earlier today because I waited a few days to build my dailies up on Arena. And my dailies were like cast 20 blue or white spells, cast 20 red or white spells, and then cast 20 creature spells or something like that. So I decided to just go with blue-white soldiers, where all my creatures are, all my spells are white because Harbin's like the only blue card in the deck. But he is also a white spell, and it's just a bunch of creatures. So I got my dailies and did okay with soldiers, but turns out it's not the deck that it once was. If you care about that report, it's not as good as it was like a year and a half ago. But this card is still one of the sort of most important building blocks of that deck. You get a Luminarch Aspirant that also helps make sure you get to keep your guys out when they die. So good thing here, and it's not whenever one or more die. It's whenever any of them die. So if you get hit with Deadly Cover-Up as opposed to Sunfall, card sucks against Sunfall, but you get hit with Deadly Cover-Up and you have like 3 other soldiers besides this guy, you actually get to keep a decent board. So he's really not bad. One of the better tools that deck has, not just in Standard, but in Commander. If you are playing soldiers, you definitely add the card to your deck. So let's give this thing a 5.3. I think it's a good Anthem effect. A good Anthem effect that also has like a great like sweeper protection, removal protection sort of effect that is underrated. But since it's Saturday, let's do a little bonus card here. Why don't we do that? It's Drowning Dreams over here from Midnight Hunt Commander. And also Modern Horizons 3 Commander. This is X2 and a blue for a card I've never seen. So X2 and a blue for an instant. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast the spell, you can choose both instead. Target player draws X cards and or target player mills twice X cards. Okay, so it's just a strictly better Stroke of Genius, right? Is it not? I mean, Stroke of Genius is X2 and a blue, instant, target player draws X cards, if I'm not mistaken. So, strictly better. Right there. I said the thing, but yeah, it's strictly better Stroke of Genius. That also can kill a guy. if you have enough mana, right? Easier said than done, but mill twice X, if you pump a total of 8 mana into this. What is that? X equals 5, so they mill 10. That's not good. That's actually not great. But if you have all the mana, right, if you can make 20 mana or whatever it is, then suddenly you are milling a lot of cards. I don't know. Just being a better version of a card that's already halfway decent, I guess I have to score it relatively highly. 5.6. Let's give Drowning Dreams a 5.6. Sure. I think it deserves somewhere around there. What do you guys think? Ask the audience again on this. I feel like I'm missing something. This is actually like a 7 or something, something like that, But I'm not giving it that much credit. Let's actually throw it that 5.75. 5.75. Final answer. Anyway, guys, I'll see you bright and early on Sunday morning. And that's about it. Let me know how you felt about all the cards today. Score them yourselves if you want to. We're all having fun here. Bye.